Moy leave, Starfelt leave, Jota leave, and we've brought in players that are not equipped to go right into that squad. We've brought in projects, and this transfer window has been nothing but abysmal.
Well,
Okay.
I disagree, Paul. Sorry, Ross. I disagree because it's too early. You had to sell Jota, right? The Starfelt one, I don't know if he wanted to leave. I don't know. We paid 5.5 million for him 2 years ago. He's had a great partnership with Starfelt. Sorry, with Carter Vickers.
And of course his girlfriend's gone to the Iberian Peninsula.
Australia.
He wanted to be there.
But I also think Alistair Johnson's been a big miss. I also think Carter Vickers was a big miss at the weekend. Okay. It's too early to say about Yang. Can he cut the mustard? Home got an opportunity on Saturday, looked okay in previous games, came off at the weekend for Turnbull after 60 minutes or something like that. So I don't think we should be pressing the panic button. Yes, I do agree with we need more quality, but it costs more money, and it's finding them. I'm wanting to, Ross, bring in a centre forward, but centre forwards are the hardest positions to find goals, and you look at Lager Bielka, too early, was in the door, Ross, 3 days, and he's asked to play away on that difficult surface at Kilmarnock in a cup tie. And then you look at the other one,
Aaron Moy. There was no option because
he's retired with a back injury.
Moy retired, so
indeed.
I'd like to
There's
see
an injury.
I'd like to see Hetati back in there, Johnson, and then we're actually not too far away when you get Carter Vickers back, either with Lager Bielka or Nabrowski. I actually don't think, but I do think that we need another 2 or 3 additions in them particular positions I spoke about with real quality. It's just where do you go and get them?
Ross, come back in, because John is a Celtic legend and you're a Celtic fan, John, as well, but you're also disappointed. The fans aren't happy. Ross?
Yep, no, John, I agree with you in the sense of going to get a top quality striker, that costs money. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think right now, apart from Kyogo, even when you look at that game on Sunday, we had nobody to bring on the bench for the bench on to change that game. That's a game that would have suited a Giacomakis to come on and get us a goal.
Absolutely.
And I think right now, I mean, you look at Jota leaving and the number of players we've got in the attacking options, I'm a wee bit concerned going into this Champions League campaign that we're going to leave ourselves short, and we're going to pay the price for that.
I'm absolutely with you, Ross. I'm with you, but I do feel as if there's plenty of players that have come in. There's 2 there, Home and Yang and from last season.
But John, are they going to be ready for Champions League?
Are they good enough?
You think they are?
That's the question for me. Are they good enough to play in a team that needs to win every week and needs to compete for competitions and medals? You know, we've only seen little fits and starts from them, really. You know, we Turnbull came in for the first game of the season, but you know, he did very well. He's had a good pre-season. We left our best player out, Hetati. He can't be happy.
He's now injured, isn't he?
Yeah. So
I think that's the biggest
concern. He's picked up a little injury, but we got to get him back in the team. Alistair Johnson back in the team.
He'll be back,
Carter Vickers, and then get the players. Abada's numbers were terrific last season. You know, and Maeda as well. What's happened to these players? Why can't they dig in and put the performance in and go and play to the system that Brendan wants? Whether or not 4-3-3, people have been speaking about Brendan has to play the same way as what Ange played. Brendan Rodgers will play the system that he feels can win games for Celtic while he's manager. If everybody could play that 4-3-3 that Ange played, you know, if it was that simple, then everybody would be playing that system, wouldn't they? You know, it's about bringing the right players in. It's about coaching them to play in that philosophy. Not as easy just to put it together like you know, like you know.
I think the injuries. I think the injuries are the biggest concern, and that's really hindered in terms of I think Celtic at this moment in time, and sometimes you can just be unlucky in terms of the injuries and the timing and what you're picking up. But they've certainly had a lot of injuries, and the boy Johnston, I think has been a key miss, a big miss, because he's a proper defender. He is a proper defender, and for me, he sets a good example. Obviously, Carter Vickers as well. But I think sometimes you can get a little bit carried away. And Brendan Rodgers says that, he never assesses a game until after 24 hours and lets the emotion and all that go out. Let's remember the start of the game against Kilmarnock. Celtic were by far the better side.
Yeah.
They had a couple of really good opportunities. I think there's one where Kyogo has dropped deep. He's played the ball around the corner. O'Reilly's in on goal. They started the game well enough and had good opportunities in the match. Right? Now, they score those goals, they go and win the game comfortably. Right? I just think that, again, there's probably a level of excitement in not the nice way for a Celtic supporter. It may be a little bit nervous. But I
the
think
Rangers fans, they loved it at the weekend. The Celtic fans are flat as pancakes.
Yeah, but also
they can't believe it.
You speak to a lot of Rangers supporters as well, and they're not hugely convinced about what they're seeing either.
No, but it's given the Rangers fans a bounce because they were poor against Morton, but they're through in the cup, and they were poor. We know it. And then Celtic are out of the league, and I know it can happen. You're not going to win every single game. Ross, what would you say to the board? Because Brendan Rodgers was talking on Friday. You would hear it about, I get the players and then I coach them and train them. What's the message? What would you be saying?
Right now, if you're asking me as a Celtic fan, I'm concerned that Rodgers has made a statement on Friday that the board are not prepared to spend the money that he was expecting to be spent. And that's my concern, that we're going to basically bring in players like Yang. Again, John, I agree with you. It's too early to make a judgment call on guys like that because they're just in the door. But I think that for right now, if you look at the signings that we've brought in, not one of the players has made us any better. They're basically projects. We've not spent any money on players that are going to come in and make us a better team than we were last year.
Where is Marco Tilio?
Injured.
Yep.
Also.
Yeah, well, what was he? 2 million Australian centre forward.
Yep.
So that's a little bit like Ross. I think, and I know the player quite well. You're right. I think he's a project signing because Maeda's obviously an experienced player, is better. Abada is a better player. Haksabanovic at the moment more advanced, obviously, than Tilio. So that was a project signing, which is kind of what you're saying. That's frustrating because the difference and what was required, in my opinion, from Celtic achieving more in Europe, which is obviously what a lot of the supporters, a lot of people are talking about. How can Celtic improve and be better in Europe? It was always going to be another top-notch striker.